Hello, babes. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new, welcome. So I wanted to talk about one of my absolute favorite Disney movies, and I have a lot, okay?
That's my business.
But this movie will always be a comfort film that reminds me of my childhood and the summertime. And that classic film is, you already know, The Parent Trap. So let's get into it. Welcome to Iconically Iconic. So the movie opens up with Hallie and Annie, both played by the iconic Miss Lindsay Lohan. Our girl was booked and busy, okay? The girls are headed off to summer camp, which I always thought was weird, that Annie lived in London, but she was going to a summer camp in Maine. That's across the globe for a few weeks just for a short time of summer fun. Not to mention she was traveling by herself. Also, where were they born? London, California? Did the parents just meet at the border and flip a coin? I have questions. Annie is the posh, polished, more girly one, very put together because she was raised by her mother, who's the same way, and they come from a wealthy background. Hallie is more of a free spirit, laid back kind of girl thanks to her upbringing with her dad. They meet for the first time at camp when they take their fencing helmets off after they just battled one another, and everyone is in shock because of how much they look alike. Annie notices it immediately, but Hallie, she was in denial because she just lost. Hallie said, "No, girl, I don't see it," and threw little jabs.
Resemblance between you and me? Let me see. Turn sideways. Now the other way. Well, your eyes are much closer together than mine. Your ears, well, don't worry, you'll grow into...
Hallie is so shady. She had no filter. The girls later go head to head in a poker game, and it turns out that they're both really good at it. It was a way to show the audience that though they're super competitive, it is also something that they have in common with one another. So they make a bet. Whoever loses will go skinny dipping, and Annie loses. Why was this even a thing to write in a kids movie? I don't know. I always thought that it was weird, but that kicks off the prank wars. And baby Hal... Hal was not to be outdone. She went full on petty. Eventually, their pranks go a little too far when they get an unexpected room inspection. And Hal's prank gets one of the counselors, which get the girls sent to the isolation cabin together. And no ma'am, a cabin in the woods, isolated? No, I don't think so. I won't be going. Send me home. But this, of course, is where they are forced to start getting along. And slowly but surely, they start bonding over shared likes and dislikes, like putting peanut butter on Oreos. And then, boom, they find out they share the same birthday, October 11th. Lindsay stayed booked in an iconic movie with October dates. Hello, October 3rd from Mean Girls. They then start piecing things together, talking about their parents, and how they both have a picture of their parents with separate sides that they piece together. And suddenly it hits them, they're twins.
And we're both born on October 11. And you and I are like sisters. Sisters. Hallie, we're like twins.
What an insane way to find that out. Not only that you have a sibling, but a twin? And the fact that their parents thought splitting them up as babies was a good idea. I'll never understand that. Not only did they separate twins, but they didn't tell the girls anything. They just pretended like the other didn't exist. That is so selfish, and to be honest, it's traumatic for them. I don't care how much you didn't get along. You put your children first unless it's a situation where you had to get away from that person for your safety, which it clearly wasn't. It was just the fact that they couldn't get along. When I was younger, I didn't think it was that deep, but when I rewatched it, the amount of audacity and the way they just carried on as if this wasn't an issue is crazy to me. You don't just give up one child and act like everything's fine and dandy. That made zero sense to me.
You're not smart.
You're not smart. So the girls decide to switch places because they obviously want to meet the parents they've never known. Annie heads to California to meet their dad, and Hallie goes to London to meet their mom and grandfather. The late Natasha Richardson plays their mother, and she always reminded me of Princess Diana, elegant, warm, and everything Hallie needed after growing up without a mom. Hallie asks about her dad, but Elizabeth doesn't say much and tries to skip the subject. She does tell her that he's American.
When we met, he was highly lovely. All right? On the Kiwi too.
Kiwi what?
The Queen Elizabeth II. It's an ocean liner that sails from London to New York. Because I wasn't keen on flying then, and neither was your father. We met our first night on board ship. We were seated next to each other at dinner. He's an American, you know.
No kidding.
No real explanation, no details, and definitely no mention of her twin sister. Again, how do you not tell your child about their sibling or their other parent? Was it that bad that you thought this was the better option? Meanwhile, Annie meets their dad in her little speech in the car about how important fathers are.
Replaceable person in a girl's life. Think about it. There's a whole day devoted to celebrating fathers. Just imagine someone's life without a father.
Should have hit Nick in a way or made him feel some kind of guilt because he's got another daughter on the other side of the world who didn't get that experience, which is Annie, who he thinks is Hallie. I think in their minds they thought because they were twins that it meant it was okay to separate them, as if twins don't have their own personalities and identities. But because they look like one another, oh, we'll split them up because it's two of the same person. They're clones. No, that's not the case. She meets Chessie, who I always loved and who plays Melissa on my favorite show, Abbott Elementary. And Chessie immediately picks up that something is off, and so does the dog. The dog said, "Now, ma'am, you may look like Hallie, but you are not Hallie."
With you, goofball, it's Hallie.
Then Annie finds out that Nick is dating someone new, the fabulous Meredith Blake. Now, I know a lot of people like her character because she's fabulous. I've never liked her, still don't. When that pastor called about Nick helping with a charity event, she straight up lied and said he was going out of the country. That told me everything I needed to know.
Well, I agree, but unfortunately I see that Mr. Parker is going to be out of the country on those days. Yes, absolutely. I will be sure.
You can be a woman who wants to be cared for and to be a princess because I am here for it. I think that's how it should be because it's how I was raised. However, when you look down on charity and treat people who don't come from money as though they're beneath you, no ma'am. That elitist snob behavior is not cute on anyone. I don't care how fabulous and beautiful you are. However, I don't like the way they tried to vilify a woman who wanted the finer things in life as evil or some gold digger. Women should be able to say what they want and have their standards. If you don't meet them, then move along. If you're not interested in that type of woman, then move along. You're not being forced to date her. But like I said, being nasty to people, treating staff like trash, and thinking you can treat people however you want just because you're beautiful and rich is not okay, and it's not acceptable. Annie was not feeling Meredith. Kids pick up on energy, and Meredith's energy wasn't it. If you need constant attention and for everything to be about you, then you have no business dating a man with children. You will never be number one if he's a good father, and you honestly shouldn't want to be number one. Competing with a child is weird, insecure behavior, and she was definitely competing. So Annie calls Hallie and tells her about Meredith, but Hallie wants to spend more time with their mom. Later on, Annie brings up Meredith to Nick and says she needs a mother, and in their conversation she says that she needs a mother. And what does Nick do? He brushes it off and instead thinks that Meredith could be that for her. Sir, what are you talking about?
Bye. Girl, I'm sorry, Liz. Bye, girl.
Why would your daughter want this stranger to play a maternal role when she just met her and she already has a mother? You're thinking about yourself yet again and not your daughter. He doesn't say it's time for you to meet your mom. They just act like each other doesn't exist. It still boggles my mind that not once in all of these years that their children did not see them. Let's also not forget Miss Meredith tells her assistant friend whoever he is, that she plans to send Hallie off to boarding school.
First change I make is to send that two-faced little brat off to boarding school in Timbuktu.
Oof, ice woman.
Proud of it, babe.
Girl, you've been around this child for what, all of a week? Didn't make any attempts to get to know her or bond with her, yet you're already making plans to send her off to boarding school? You want her gone already? Why? Because you didn't want Nick to be a father. You wanted to be the only woman in his life. That's the reason why I wasn't fond of her. Her character reflects a very real kind of jealous woman who gets with a man who has children from a previous marriage or relationship, and they treat the children like they're disposable, and they're also jealous of that previous relationship and don't want any reminders. And they play nice in front of the fathers, but they're actually wicked, mean women. And then you've got these weak men who just go with it and allow their children to be mistreated, which is something that I just could never get behind. Being jealous of a child and mistreating children is a sign that you clearly need to seek some mental help, because there's no excuse for it. Anyway, fast forward, Nick tells Annie, still thinking she's Hallie, that he's marrying Meredith. Meanwhile, back in London, Hal comes clean to their mother and admits who she really is. So now they have to switch back.
You're not Annie. That would be correct.
Elizabeth is extremely anxious and she's panicking because she now has to see Nick again and deal with all of those old feelings.
Look at me, Martin. Have you ever seen me like this? Don't answer that.
And while she knows the truth about the switch, Nick still doesn't. Listen, my girl Elizabeth was stressed. You hear me? She had a few drinks and listen, it showed.
I found the room by myself. I said, I need to get a little fresh air.
When she sees Nick in the elevator, it's clear he doesn't know about the switch and meetup. Anyway, he looks confused and is trying to make sure that he's actually seeing Elizabeth and he's not imagining things. Elizabeth goes to confront the girls, and this time they tell her the truth. Anyway, she ends up at the hotel bar and Meredith spots her, recognizes her as the famous designer who designs beautiful wedding gowns, and they have a little chit chat. After she's done at the bar, she goes by the pool area and Nick happens to see her. And when he sees Elizabeth, he is clearly in shock yet again. This time though, he tries to get to her but trips and falls into the pool. Now, and just like that, the whole switcheroo is exposed.
Both of them? Annie? Hallie?
I guess you and Mum kind of think alike, because you both sent us to the same camp.
The girls, of course, still want their parents back together, so they come up with a plan to confuse their parents yet again, so they don't know who is who, so that they all can go on Nick's annual camping trip. Meredith is not feeling it, and listen, she's not wrong to feel a way about it. However, this is something he's done for years before she even came along. But it was a lot going on at once. Your fiance's ex-wife is tagging along. It's just uncomfortable. So instead, Elizabeth suggests she goes, and Meredith wanted no parts. But there's a lot that needs to be said and sorted out between them, and bonding needed to happen. So what do the girls do on the camping trip? They set Meredith up. They terrorize that woman with a lizard, and truthfully speaking, her reaction would have been mine, because I do not do the creepy crawlers. Then they decide to put her out on the lake. These girls were little terrors. So Meredith wakes up to find herself floating in an air mattress on the lake in the morning. They were so out of pocket, just wrong. And it was dangerous too. But it worked. They got exactly what they wanted, because when Meredith storms back after falling in the lake, she tells Nick it's her or the girls. And Nick rightfully and logically chooses his daughters.
It's me or them. Take your pick.
Them.
Excuse me?
T-H-E-M. Them. Get the picture?
As he should. Who even thinks to give a parent that kind of ultimatum? Girl, Toodaloo! After some quality family time, it's time for Annie and Elizabeth to head back to London, and you can see how hard it is for the girls to separate because they've gotten really close over these past few weeks. But when they get home, surprise, it's not Grandpa sitting in his office chair, it's Hallie, and she's there with Nick. He tells Elizabeth how he really feels, and by the end of the movie, they remarry. That part always made me so happy for the girls. The girls finally got what they wanted, and their family is back together. However, 11 years apart, that kind of separation and abandonment definitely left some scars that weren't talked about. I think they would have benefit from therapy because while the movie has a happy ending, there is certainly some emotional damage there when it comes to separating these girls and acting as though they didn't exist. You would wonder, are you hiding any other secrets? Are there any other siblings? I feel like the fear of the parents breaking up and splitting them up yet again. Still, this is one of my all-time favorite movies, and back when movies were actually good. This was when Disney gave us quality, not just content for the sake of money, but they were actually thinking about their viewers and their audience. Can we get back to originality and the love and care for making film and the love of the art of filmmaking? Anyway, with that being said, this video has come to an end. Don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe. Also, make sure your notification bells are turned on so that you always know when I upload. And I will catch you guys in the next one.